Belief is a cognitively based kind of response that people have that's usually fairly specific, and a value is kind of a higher level concept that involves usually a series of beliefs along with your feelings with regard to certain kinds of topics.
I guess I've always believed, even though I haven't really followed, that in order for a relationship to work, both parts of the couple have to be holding each other up on a pedestal.
I might get hurt for this, but I think it's okay to hold things back sometimes. Like, if I know that certain information is gonna set her off, maybe for the sake of enjoying the day together without any fights, I can hold that information back, maybe for a later time.
I think marriage as an institution was created for the purpose of nurturing and fostering children, and that is the utmost importance of being married, is to give a loving and supportive house for children to grow up in.
When the kids start coming, I think somebody needs, it doesn't need to be necessarily the girl. It can be, I don't care who it is.
That's true.
But I think there needs to be a dedicated person at home.
You can't have an equal relationship if I don't think you can if you have a family. I would agree with that.
We know that people have a lot of expectations, ideas, beliefs, theories, if you will, about relationships. But what are they doing there? What's their function? Well, a question that I often ask my class that I teach on intimate relationships is a deceptively simple one, and it runs like this. How do you know that you're in a good relationship? The answer that I usually get back is kind of, people grin a little, and they say, what a strange question, you just know. It's obvious, isn't it? And I say, well, no, it's not obvious to me. Please tell me, explain to me how you know you're in a good relationship, or a bad one for that matter. So after a while, when we think about this a little, people will start to generate something a little deeper and say, well, you can tell because you know whether you're happy or not. To which I say, that's fine, that's a very good answer, but can we go a little further? I mean, what is it that causes you to be happy or satisfied or dissatisfied? And then the answers start to come in a reasonable flow. Well, you're happy if you communicate well. You're happy if you're very similar to your partner. You're in a happy relationship if you solve your problems well. If you're having great sex. What people are doing when they make these kind of judgments, are you communicating well? Are you having great sex? Are you having a really good time? We know from research that what you're doing, what people are doing, is comparing what they perceive they have in the relationship and what their prior standards or expectations consist of. If you think that sex is terribly important in a relationship, and that to have a good relationship, it's really got to be hot and passionate, then if it isn't, you will be dissatisfied. So the answer to the question, how do you know you're in a good relationship? At least one important answer, there are many answers, but one important answer is that people compare what they have with what their expectations are or what their theories tell them a good relationship should look like.
Where do beliefs and values come from? Many of them obviously come from contact with other people earlier in our life and current partners who have had a strong impact on us in close relationships, parents, friends, etc. I think that values basically oftentimes are a collection of different kinds of beliefs, some of which we've been taught directly through socialization and are culturally consistent, and some of which we've learned through experience that might actually contradict what we've been socialized to think about something. And one of the things that makes relationships interesting is you have this kind of dynamic tension between what you've been taught and what you think you ought to do, and sometimes what you've learned on the side, so to speak, and what you really want to do. So this ought, what, want tension is one of the things that makes people dynamic and very difficult to study.
As I talked about before, my central approach in relationships is to try and understand the link between cognition, what people are thinking, their beliefs, their expectations, and relationship behavior. And taking this approach often produces quite a lot of rewards from a scientific perspective. Take, for example, the work in cohabitation. There is a lot of research out there that shows that if you cohabit, if you live together before you're married, that's actually a bad thing to do. And the reason is that when you compare groups, you find that people who cohabit tend to have a higher separation and a divorce rate than is the case for people who do not cohabit but get married straight away. Now, in fact, an answer to why that effect occurs can be found if you look at what's going on inside people's heads. It turns out that couples who do not live together and who get married have strong beliefs in the sanctity of marriage, have strong beliefs that divorce is a very bad thing, whereas people who cohabit have more relaxed beliefs about marriage. They're less likely to have strong religious beliefs about the sanctity of marriage. They're more likely to see marriage as an institution that one can escape from, for example. They attach less moral value to the notion of being divorced as compared to people who do not live together and just get married.
I don't believe in marriage. I don't think it really matters if you live together before you get married.
I believe it's beneficial for couples to live together. I guess divorce is a necessary evil.
I believe that depending on the situation, it is beneficial for people to live together before they get married. I personally do not want to get divorced. I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy being a product of divorce. At the same time, it's weird in a weird way because my parents are both so happy now. It's kind of nice to see them happy instead of butting heads.
Thus, it is the belief about cohabitation and the belief about marriage that's actually doing the causal work here. It's not the cohabiting itself. One of the critical things to understand when you are looking at the role of cognition in relationships is to understand that beliefs and expectations, even desires, they cause behavior, but they're also caused by behavior. So we know from a lot of research that relationships, for example, can have very strong influences on how people think and how people feel about relationships. And you find this in many different areas. You find it, for example, in work on attachment styles, so that people who are in good, positive, satisfying relationships actually become more secure. Their psychological makeup becomes healthier and more positive as a function of the healthy and positive relationship. But it's also true that if you start out with a very secure and a very positive relationship style, that also has a beneficial effect on the relationship. So you have this kind of circular relationship that goes on here.
I used to believe in fairy tales until reality set in.
I used to believe I could change a man until I started dating Ryan.
I used to believe that there was only one true love meant for each person until I fell in love with somebody and it didn't work out.
I guess I used to believe that true love maybe didn't entirely exist until I met my current girlfriend.
I used to believe that love is enough until I realized that too much love can often get you in trouble.
I used to believe that relationships over time would decrease in its intensity and the intensity of the affections for each other. Until I met a few couples that totally blew that paradigm out of the water. Their affections for each other, their love for each other over the years have only increased. So it showed me tangibly that it is possible for people to be together for a long time and not be bored of each other and not be wanting to kill each other, you know, but they want to actually love each other and go on the rest of their life and finish their life with each other.